Replacing the safety nets. And again, you probably know this, but I'm going to refresh your memory on how the dairy support price works now, the price support program works. In surplus situations, theoretically what's supposed to happen is if there's too much milk being produced, or more than consumers are going to buy, we take that milk, put it into, for example, 40-pound blocks of cheese, and if we can't sell all the cheese, the federal government will buy it at a predetermined price. Same for butter, and same for non-fat dry milk. And that price that they pay for that cheese, butter, and powder is supposed to be converted to a milk price, a basic milk price that dairy farmers are supposed to get. Well, what has happened, you know, we've had $10 milk for the last 9 months. The only commodity that's gone to the government is non-fat dry milk. No cheese has been sold to the government. There's a lot of reasons why that has happened. As I noted here, we think it gives a disincentive to innovation. And let me give an example of this. Whey powder, or whey, has no support program. When you make a pound of cheese, you're going to get a half a pound of whey. There's no support program on that, so people manufacture it. And we started out as an industry by drying whey powder. Well, when you didn't have a market, or when that market was saturated, people innovated like crazy. You're making whey proteins, protein isolates, lactose, pharmaceutical lactose, permeate for feed, and on and on. And as a result of that, 50% of all the whey solids that are produced in this country are exported. It's the one product that we can consistently compete on a worldwide basis. Now compare that to non-fat dry milk. Nobody is innovating with that protein portion of milk because you can't justify an investment, because if the level of that price ever gets down to where the support price is for non-fat, you sell it to the government. So people aren't innovating, and as a result of that, we cannot be a consistent exporter. So we think that that program should be replaced. Now this is one that I think I might get rocks thrown at me, but we also think that we should eliminate the MILC program. So you replace the existing support programs that we have, the MILC, but you replace that with a producer income insurance program. And the government is going to save some money by not having these support prices, and we think that there's going to be money available that they can fund an insurance program for dairy farmers. Let's call it a catastrophic level of price support, so that your milk price essentially would never go below $10. The free market could work, product prices could go down, the milk price could go down, in effect that your price would never go below a floor because of that insurance. We think that this could be treated kind of like puts and calls too, where you've got a catastrophic level, and if you want a higher level of production, you as a producer could pay for that. Let's just say the floor that the government is going to support is $10. If you want to buy up to $12, buy a put and have the opportunity to protect your floor at that level. Okay? And then lastly, we think that the CWT should be enhanced and can provide some better opportunities for the industry to work on its own problems. We think that we could add some plans here for a partial herd retirement program. We think the export assistance program can be enhanced. We also think that we can use some dollars to buy some product for food banks and that sort of thing. And maybe utilize marketing agencies in common. Remember, this is a voluntary program today, and only cooperatives can participate in it, because otherwise it's a monopoly. But we think that cooperatives can work together a little more formally and create an agency in common for exporting cheese, for example. The problem today with the CWT program is that there's only about 2/3 of the milk that's paying into the fund and supporting it. And 1/3 of the dairy farmers, or 1/3 of the milk around the country, is not supporting it. So as it's structured today, it will not be able to continue. There's just an issue with what's referred to as free riders that will not move forward unless it's changed and enhanced. So if you look at this comprehensive plan, again, don't look at this as just one little piece, just federal order reform or changing support programs. You have to look at all of this together. And here's what we think are some of the benefits. First of all, it decouples milk prices from the CME. Everybody criticizes it. There's an awful lot of criticism about the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. One or two loads changing hands can affect my milk price dramatically. This will decouple that, because we are no longer tied by formula to what happens on the cheese price, the butter price, or the powder price. It's a competitive situation. It also, in that vein, allows us, who are manufacturers of cheese, to rather than price cheese on a weekly basis, we can price it on a long-term basis. If we have a customer who says, hey, I want to price my cheese at a fixed level for 2 years, you cannot do it today because you just can't be competitive because of that fluctuation in the formula pricing. We think through the federal order reform, we can get better price discovery. I think everybody's mentioned that. We think that we can reduce some of the peaks and the valleys in the milk prices. And let me just make one point. You can never eliminate volatility. You know, if you're thinking that we're going to get a $14 or $15 or $16 price and hold that steady, that ain't going to happen. You know, back 20 years ago, we had less volatility than today, but what we had then was a program where the government was buying surplus products and warehouses were full. Taxpayers are not going to let us get back there. So we're always going to have some volatility. What we have to do is try to manage it and try to get those peaks and valleys shaved off and operate in a more narrow and normal range. We think that through federal order reform, we can get milk to move to higher value products. If butter and powder don't make as much money, or if they're not as valuable as making cheese, you should have the incentive to make cheese. And that just doesn't happen because of our pricing mechanism today. People are making butter powder because of the pool draws and that sort of thing, are able to pay the same price as if you're making cheese. We think that through this program we can have more consistent export business. And I have to say this, that we are becoming a more global economy, and we're going to be part of a global business network. And when you think of that initially, you think, yeah, well, that means that we're going to have the ability to export. Think about this though. If we're in a global economy, that means that people have the ability to import. And as much as you want to talk about isolationism and managing your own business, we're always going to have imports coming into this country. And if our pricing gets too out of whack with the rest of the world, imports are going to continue to come into this country, and I don't think it's avoidable. Another thing, on that line, I just want to make a point here, that our industry has to take some lessons from the auto industry. The auto industry made some mistakes. 2 mistakes in my mind. Number one is they didn't make the cars that the consumers wanted, for whatever reason. Toyota and Honda and those guys did. Secondly, they let their cost structures get out of whack with the rest of the world. Labor costs, pension costs, and all these things. We as an industry can't let that happen because what happened in the auto industry, you got Toyota and Honda and Kia and all those companies waiting in the wings to take over market share from us. And don't kid yourself that that can't happen to the dairy industry. Look around and see where the investments have been made in the last 2 years in this country. Glanbia from Ireland, Saputo and Agrippur from Canada, Lala from Mexico are making massive investments in this country. And don't kid yourself that they won't import products at the drop of a dime if they need to from a cost competitive standpoint. So we have to be very, very careful and position ourselves for the long term. And then lastly, we think that this will help facilitate industry growth. We don't want to curtail growth and the growth opportunities, especially here in the Midwest. We're in an opportunity now where we can gain market share back from the rest of the world, and we don't want to stop it. We want to give you as dairy farmers every opportunity to grow your business, be profitable for the long term, and we don't want to squelch that in any way, shape, or form. And then lastly,